but it's not. It's flat, and I can see that it's flat. I can see, a mile away from where I am, so that proves that the Earth is flat.
Ladies, gentlemen, them, they, and all, it's showtime! Ha-ha! Although, when we do say showtime, we do use that term very loosely, as what we've got in store for you today, well, our presenters have really no idea what they're gonna say because they're all unprepared. So strap yourselves in and brace yourself as the Some Nobodies present PowerPoint Showdown. So start that round of applause as we welcome this week's Keynote Speaker.
Hello, and thank you for joining our conference. Now, listen, everyone, tonight you're going to hear four professionals discussing our topic, which is going to be the history of human footwear. We had to search far and wide for four professionals on this, and I had to fill in for one, so I really only had to search for three. Now, with me, as always, we have Dylan. Dylan with his third eye. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right.
I didn't know you were a footwear fan.
Yeah, I wear them on occasion.
Not a question. We also have Mr. Albert Fish. Albert Fish, how are you, sir?
No, I can't wait to talk about footwear.
Oh, weird. Okay. We'll get to you hopefully last. And special guest of the week, we have Mr. Mark H. Bushido Geek. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm ready. I prepared a lot for this.
You did.
I did. I have one pair of tennis shoes that I wore into the ground, so I'm super prepared.
And you know everything about those one pair of tennis shoes.
I do, yeah.
Excellent. Now, we found you because we actually listened to many episodes of your podcast, Dad's Anime Stache, to find out exactly your extensive knowledge on shoes. It's subtle, but it's there.
It's there, yeah. If you listen really carefully, I drop subtle hints to the secret of my footwear fetish.
Yeah, well, Dylan has a lot of post-it notes with some of those clues on it, so we'll get to that soon. But listen, guys, I'll be your keynote speaker. My name is Wiseman1, and one, that's a shoe. Probably that's the joke of that one. And I'll be leading this conference. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, each speaker will be given roughly 10 minutes to present our topic of the week, the history of human footwear. And after each presentation, there'll be a short Q&A from the panel. And of course, we invite any members of the audience to ask literally hundreds, if not thousands, of questions if you have any. And after the fourth presentation, the panelists will vote on which speaker will be awarded a $50,000 scholarship to Some Nobodies University, which Dylan is the dean of, just so you know. So he runs a tight ship. And also the nostalgia prize that we haven't done these in a while. Nostalgia prize, yeah. Actually, I got it's right here. Oh, cool. It actually came in a tube this time. Handle with care.
Fancy.
The nostalgia prize of the week is going to be This is a German Fritz the Cat poster. Huh.
That is a thing that was made.
This was made. Yeah, Fritz the Cat. Yep. Weird. Obviously, our Patreon members learn more and more about us. That was actually the reason my middle name is what it is. And if you want to know that, feel free to ask anytime. Now, listen, guys, before we get on with our presentation. Oh, actually, we don't have a message for last week's winner because I can't remember who won last week. So I did not think to upload a message, and I apologize for that. So if you're listening to the future, I'll probably have posted one in the middle of this. If not, I'm sorry. Tune in last week to see a very cool message. Now,
but nobody ever talks about the winner during those little videos that you.
No, they're the winner.
Oh, they're the winner.
They're the winner, and they usually have beat you so bad that their life is amazing. Almost as if they've gotten a script on what to say.
It's been a while since we've done one of these.
Go ahead, Dylan.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
We're gonna get copyright strike.
That was spot fucking on.
Now, without further ado, I'm going to deliver our first presentation. Can I get our producers to open the presentation that I have expertly prepared for tonight? Now, the thing that we wanted to go over is the history of human footwear. And why do we want to go over this, friends? It's because, a lot of times people go over big, inventions, the wheel, sliced bread, things that have changed people's lives. But you know what's changed lives more than anything? Footwear. Where would we be without the footwear? So once again, got a bunch of experts. And the thing that I want to teach you and these nerds about is a crash course about human footwear, stars included. So let's get on with the presentation, please. Okay, now, quote, proper footwear is the key to a healthy human relationship. Friends, family, lovers, it doesn't matter. And Benjamin Franklin, clearly the third creator of the newest renaissance of footwear, said that. And I think that we can all take that to heart. When you think about who wears footwear, it's friends, it's families, it's lovers. It also doesn't fucking matter who wears footwear. It's there. There has been waves and waves and iterations and iterations. You know who else wore footwear? Jesus. Who else? Einstein. Name somebody. I dare you. Most likely, unless it's that one person you're thinking of that I don't know about, they probably wore footwear. Now, and I found so many quotes that can really sum up what it is that is footwear. This one wasn't one of them, but this one was a quote from Ben Franklin. Next slide, please. Now, here's some important dates on footwear, for foot-focused folks. Now, I'm going to have Albert Fish really pay attention to this because this is right here for you. Now, if you happen to be in the northern part of Africa or southern part of Europe, you'll find Gibraltar. This is the first human foot discovered. Did this foot have shoe on it? It's one of the biggest mysteries known to man. But that foot was been dated to -15 BC. Or is that that's an approximately sign, isn't it? Wait, is it the two squiggles approximately? One squiggle is just like a hyphen?
This is your presentation.
Can we get producers to check on the ruling of no? Okay, they're not going to do that for me. That's great. Okay, anyway, let's move ahead. So over here in up in the Yukon region, we also have Manitoba. Now, thousands died in the Battle of Big Feet Bay in 1777 AD. Honestly, it's one of the biggest deposits of footwear that we've found naturally occurring. Once a glacier has moved, it was just roughly, I think it was 17 tons of just ancient footwear from the late 1700s just oozed out like lava. It was interesting, but it really kind of changed the scope of how we thought about it. Now, if you want to head all the way to the right side of this map, you're going to find Philippines, I think. It is a whole bunch of islands. I think it was in the Philippines. This map was way too small, and I couldn't zoom in fast enough. But listen, Magellan's foot circumnavigates the globe, at least according to history class in my public middle school. I looked at my yearbook, and this is what somebody wrote down, that Magellan foot mainly circumnavigated the world before most people did. And I was like, I should keep in touch with that person. Next slide, please. Now, what astrology says about your feet? Not much. But here's what I could find. If you have a Virgo sun, your toesies are little sandwiches perfectly appointed with little cucumber slices. And they are fine for high tea or fancy parties. If you could even have like slices of salmon with little pieces of dill on it if you want. But these are the perfect little sandwiches, your toesies, Virgo sun. Now, Leo moon, this is going to be hard to sink in, but I'm sorry. Remember that thing that you overheard your friends talking about that stressed you out? It's even worse than you thought. And that was probably about your feet. This was on like most horoscopes, astrology. It's a vague interpretation of what it was. When I read this immediately, I was like, that's about their feet, and they should know that. Now, if you're a Taurus rising, Jupiter is a gas giant and is the biggest planet in the solar system. I had to check on this fact at least 6 times, and it is a fact. Jupiter is the biggest planet. What does that have to do with footwear and the history of it? It's history, folks. We had to learn this at some time, and that was a go. And guess what? That person was either wearing shoes or about to invent them. You're welcome, Taurus risings. Next slide, please. Yeah, look, I had a hard time finding a lot of facts on what I was trying to get over. So this one's going to be a work in progress, and I'm really sorry. I've got to complete this. Shit, I thought I wrote complete this after the conference, but apparently I wrote before the conference. What I was really going to go into here is that not only do footwear inspire the feet to keep on walking upwards of miles, it also inspires, beautiful tales, such as the back of the Converse and the high heel. Now, that's one of the biggest tales that people have known who've come out of any of the borough of New York. And if you haven't, you should have heard that story because it would have taught you a lot. Now, before the end of this whole conference, I'm going to finish a slide, but until then, we're going to have to get to the next one. Now, history shows do this, but honestly, don't do this. Now, this over here, this is similar to that one move in that shuffle song that you do mostly in weddings, where you're supposed to slide to the left. You can do that, especially if you're wearing shoes. It was way harder before shoes were invented. Once the footwear was involved, slide to the left, super easy. Listen, do not do that though. This is going to cause lots of problems. This is the reason that knees were invented to go this way. It's because if you do that over there, it doesn't matter what your footwear is. You're going to be seeing it. Next slide, please. Now, obviously, with any of our slides or any of our presentation, you got to make sure that you give your references. Here's some of the works I cited. Now, we have Hochauer Shannon from 1986, Feet of the World, Penguin Publishing, obviously. They were the masters in small books, especially in the mid to late 80s. We have Yoder Bucephalus, 1677. Now, Riveting Story is a collection of individual feet. This was an independent folio. I really couldn't read the spine of it to tell you where it came from. Now, we also had a couple books from Quentin Tarantino himself. 2009, Goddamn, I Love Feet. I just want to suck them all day long. Now, I found this on the Internet Forum post, and I thought that it was relevant to this because nowadays, and if there's anything about evolution, it is evolving, and it's constantly changing. When someone says right now, they say footwear, at least 3 of these 4 people on this panel think Quentin Tarantino, who is now the master of footwear. Next slide, please. Now, sorry. Now, in conclusion, evolution of anything is about science. It's about fact. It's about knowledge. It's about cause and effect is what it is. Cause and effect. Now, when you're dealing with a lot of things, especially footwear, you got to keep in mind Big Brother or little Quentin is going to be looking over your shoulder because he knows what's going on at all times. Do your research, folks. Know what's going on. Know who's been licking and sucking on these feet. And just thank the big QT himself for making beautiful closed-toed shoes for women everywhere. That wasn't really the evolution I thought I was going to be getting into. It was the one that I needed to get into. And thank you very much for your time, everyone. I will take every question known to man, please. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Albert Fish, I didn't expect you to have a question.
Well, you said that you cited works. But was that for the slide that you didn't finish? Is that what you were citing works for? Because I didn't see anything that needed citations during your whole presentation.
I showed you a map, and on that map was many things. I didn't make that map up. I found that map. I went to at least 6 different Reddit posts for different things. I didn't write those, so I felt I needed to cite those. I'll say the majority of work I do for any presentation is those 3 references.
I go on the footwear Reddits all the time, and I've never seen any of those things before.
Does anyone else have a question? Oh, Dylan.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation. Can you list your top 3 Quentin Tarantino foot shots?
Oh yeah. I would probably say Pussy Wagon, right? Number 1, when Uma's trying to work her foot. I'll say number 2, when Uma's doing her twist. I'll say number 3, maybe when Uma is after she turns the radio on and she's walking into that one room before doing those illicit drugs. After that, I'm probably going to say Juliette Lewis. Did
I
somebody say
said 3, but you can keep going, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, please keep going.
No, I refuse now. Are there any more questions before we move on? Oh, okay. Mr. Mark H.
Yeah, I was curious. You had mentioned there a couple key dates about footwear, but I was curious, what was one of those dates that you left out? I feel like there's some missing information on some important dates in footwear.
On just dates in general?
Yeah, you had a couple key dates of footwear on there. Yeah, this slide right here. I was wondering, there seems to be some missing there. I was wondering, what'd you leave out?
Yeah, see, I can understand the misunderstanding here. This is actually the food dates. I was eating some pretty important dates in these locations while doing research on shoes. Not really dates of the year, but there is probably a negative 15 BC here. There's a 1777 AD. We did at one point speak of a 1677 AD as well. And honestly, can we not forget about 2011?
It's a fair point.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Well, it seems like all the questions have been used up. So thank you very much. We do have some adieus, but before we get to any of them, we're going to have to hop on to Mr. Mark H. Bushido Geek's presentation. Let's see if we can get... No, there we go. Nope, is that right? Nope. It was right the first time.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had it right
sorry.
the first time. Then
Yep,
you
the producer.
changed
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Threw me off a little, but it's fine.
I apologize.
Gotta refocus. No, it's fine. It's fine. Just yeah, I guess things happen. I guess. When I was thinking about this presentation on the history of human footwear, I realized there's a lot of like preconceptions and misinformation out there. It's footwear. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different facts, a lot of information. So I was like, you know what? We're gonna start about feet and shoes because there's some useful information about both of these things. So we'll go to the next slide and we'll show you some of these things. So it's an interesting question to start. How do you feel about feet? And I feel like that's an important question because where do you start? Are you a sandals person? Are you a socks with sandals person? And you're dealing with the stigma of wanting to wear socks with your sandals, even though everyone says that you shouldn't. Are you a tennis shoes guy? Are you a Converse guy? I mean, how many brands are you doing it to cover up the smell? Where does it stop? Are you having to wear insoles to get that foot cushion? It's the feet. It's so important part of the human body, and shoes are so important about that. I think to realize what kind of footwear you should get, you really need to answer the question to yourself: how do I feel about feet, and what do I want my feet to tell other people? So I feel like I want everyone listening right now to focus on that question. Next slide, please. So I want everyone to please repeat after me because, again, like I said, that question was very important. So I want us to do this together. I will not advance the presentation until I'm satisfied that all three of you have done this to my satisfactory. So we'll go line by line. I'll say it first, and then we'll repeat it together, right? So you guys know what's going on. So first line, shoes are good. So I want everyone count of three. 1, 2, 3. Shoes are good. There you go. Great job. I feel like someone a little bit late there. If you want to step it up a little bit, that'd be great. So next line, feet are fine. So everyone count it with me. 1, 2, 3. Feet are fine. Great job. You're a great crowd reading. I know reading is difficult, but we'll get through it together. Third line, I like most feet. So count of 3, guys. 1, 2, 3. I like most feet. Really appreciated Albert's like his emphasis there on the words. We'll, I'm sure, deal with that later, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. Last line. So, but I especially like mine, but I need you to replace the word mine with Mark. All right. So I especially like Mark's feet. All right. So count of 3 with me. 1, 2, 3.
But I
especially like
Mark's feet.
Again, really appreciate Albert on that one. We'll send Albert some feet pictures later. It's $4.99 on OnlyFans.
I'll take 10.
We'll go to the next slide. All right. So again, shoes, it's very important. So what's the best way to go about this is a timeline. How do we start? So first shoe is invented in 35,412 BC, which, as we all know, caveman, when they're starting to push that wheel and create that fire, they're not doing that barefoot. They're doing that in shoes. It had to start somewhere, and that's when it started. We go next to the next most important date, 27 AD. Jesus promises to save everyone's soul. He died for our sins. He died for the soles on our feet and our calluses. The man can do no wrong. And then we're going to go to the next most important date here. Heelys invented. Jesus' promise fulfilled in 1999 AD, the day we all remember when we could zip down the hallways in front of all of our friends, which led to one of the best animes ever, Air Gear. The anime would have never existed if we didn't have Heelys. So I feel like, I mean, what do you say? We all remember gliding down the hallway and getting yelled at as we just popped a wheelie out and rode into class. It's great memories. And we can fast forward to today where, I mean, what do we say? We've got Heelys. There's shoes that light up, the shoes that make sounds. I mean, like, I'm sure shoes can play radios at this point, Bluetooth. I mean, like, there's nothing we can't do with shoes. So we'll go to the next slide. But again, seriously, we go back to Jesus inventing Heelys and helping fulfill his promise. How sick are these shoes? I mean, like, we look sometimes at shoes. You look at like the Jordans or the LeBron James or the Kobe Bryants, and you look at some of these Nikes that drop, and you look at it and you're like, man, look at that shoe. But I mean, seriously, look at this shoe. I mean, again, I wanted to put some good emphasis on there, so I did a little Photoshop work. I hope you guys don't mind, but I feel like if Moses could have parted the Red Sea with a pair of Converse, he would have. And how much easier will that have made of walking that stretch of sand if he didn't have to do it in bare feet? So I think that's just another good testament to how important footwear really is, because it can, in so many instances in history, can help out. But we'll jump to the next slide. So when I was making this, I got really sidetracked. I found this really good YouTube video of a guy dressed up as Jesus doing a kickflip and some Heelys, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys the video. I couldn't really get it to load. I'm not great on embedding videos into my visual presentations, but if you guys just Google kickflipping Jesus on YouTube on your phones, we'll give you guys a quick break after this. You guys can Google that really quick. It's a really great video, but also it's I can't get it out of my head. It's such a good video. But we can go on. So again, I was like, what's also more important when it comes to data? You want to be able to back up what you're saying. Numbers, right? So as you can see here, we have a bar chart here. So you can see there's a minimum feet, an average feet, and a maximum feet. And I wanted to compare probably the things we don't really think about. We all know that us as humans, we wear a lot of shoes. We have a lot of footwear, but I don't think we realize that some animals do as well. So we have a chart here showing the mammals, the lizards, and the bugs. And I think if you're wondering why the bugs is so high in the maximum feet, remember how many feet a centipede has. And just think about how many tiny pairs of shoes that is for one centipede. That's a lot of shoes. So it kind of skews the graph a little bit. But I mean, hey, I didn't make the data. I just crunched it. We do what we have it. Lizards, it can get a little complicated. It's a little bit harder to get a Komodo dragon versus versus like a little salamander to put on those flip-flops. But I can tell you, once they wear them, it's adorable. And I think we can all agree, what's cuter than a cow in roller skates? So I feel like that's enough said on there, and we can go on to the next slide. So in conclusion, what I wanted to do here is showcase what happens if you don't find the proper footwear, and you're really trying to answer that question, how do I feel about feet, that we mentioned in the first slide. As you can see here, a couple key areas of the human body that if you don't wear the proper footwear, you can see some serious damage to your ankle aversion there. That's what happens if you're not wearing that proper Heelys. And if you don't pop it up the last time, you can roll your ankle there. Your knee abduction, your dynamic valgus, and your femoral adduction. Huge and critical parts of the human body. And so in conclusion, I want everyone to go back to that question I asked you originally and make sure that by the time you leave here today, you have an answer to how you feel about feet. And that way you can understand the history of human footwear. And we'll open it up to some questions. Dylan, we got some couple of time. We'll go to whoever wants to go first, Dylan or.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for the presentation. While talking about Jesus, you had mentioned that it was a testament to the power of human footwear. I was wondering, Old or New Testament?
It's a good question. I feel like the Old Testament, he didn't have it quite dialed down to his proper footwear. There was some things that happened that maybe impacted his ability to wear the proper footwear. So I feel like the late Testament is when he really kind of realized at that stage of his life what he should be going with.
Oh, the late Testament, of course, the third book.
Yes. There's always more. You think there's not, but there's always more. Wise, yes. You have a question?
I do. On the one, first off, thank you for this presentation. It was unfortunately better than mine and also enlightening. Now, if we can get the producers, please, to bring up the slide about the timeline, the one where the Heelys were in, please. Thank you. Now, if we look on the now part, that says everything's great. I was under the impression that an evolution isn't something that stops. Now, are you saying that the sneaker, the shoe, the footwear is perfect as it is and is not headed towards another evolution?
I think at the current stage that we're at, we need something kind of drastic to happen because we have corrective shoes, we have things we can do to help out, but really, unless someone takes a drastic redesign of the human footwear, we're at a situation in our time where we have it as good as we're going to get it right now until something amazing happens or something drastic happens.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Well, before we get to Albert, we do have one from the audience. Sorry. Blue Shoe Nick would like to know, hi, coming in late. Apologies. Was the difference between handsome and footsome explained? Get this out of here. I'm sorry about that. We will edit that out of the podcast. Continue, Mr. Fish.
Yeah. Can I get that slide back up about the maximum and minimum amount of feet, please? Okay, that's what I thought. Now, as far as I understand, a lot of mammals have 4 feet.
It's a common misconception. The angle of the sun actually tricks your mind into seeing 4 feet when in reality there's 3.
Oh, so it's just an optical illusion.
Yeah, it's a really common misconception.
Okay, I mean that is more stable for standing.
It does work actually a lot. Whenever you look at a cow pasture, it's actually just a lot of cows leaning up against each other.
Oh, I thought that they had arms, and like cows don't have arms.
It's one of those things. Yeah. In the research, I realized that, and I was like, it was mind blowing.
Good question, Fish.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, wise.
If we could bring up slide number 2, you talked a lot about this. I felt like this was the summation of your thesis here, but we never got an answer to how you feel about feet.
It's a great question. I had to internally look at myself pretty hard as someone who suffers from just chronic feet stink. It was one of those things where I had to really take a good hard look at myself in the mirror and kind of question how I felt about my own feet. And the reality is realizing that I think feet are amazing. I think it's something that I was not putting enough attention into in the past. And doing this presentation made me realize that we got to take better care of our feet, with whether it's footwear, get that foot massager and just go to town and just have fun. I feel like we all need to do that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Of course. Any other questions, anyone?
No, that seems to be it. Awesome job, Mark H. Bushido Geek. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you later and ask a couple more questions. But like I said earlier, we got some ados. Fuck them. Let's get to Mr. Albert Fish and his presentation. Let's see here if I can just bring this up. Producers are just off today? What are they doing? God.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about before. I just had a bunch of Taco Bell and it was messing me up for a while. But I'm okay now. So today my presentation is about foot fashion throughout time, from the eyes of a self-proclaimed doctor. Now, the self-proclaimed doctor is not myself. I did have someone help me with the writing of this presentation, and they are a self-proclaimed doctor. They do a lot of surgeries and foot related medical things, but not technically a doctor. But they know a lot about feet. So if I could get to the next slide, please. Now about the foot. Early shoes were to prevent unwanted toe sucking. As Quentin Tarantino or anyone else will let you know, that first base is toe sucking. So what happened back before shoes were invented was a lot of unwanted it was a lot of unwanted, especially during the night. People would come into other people's caves, climb up into their trees, and suck on their toes. This was a lot easier to do because the feet were more exposed. You don't have to get up near. What is happening
What-
with
What is
this?
happening?
I don't.
Can I?
Whoa.
It's going too far. Okay.
Okay.
What are the
Okay.
producers doing?
The producers
Chaos.
have gone crazy. I've totally lost track of what I was talking about. So basically, in order for the new first base to be kissing, they had to get rid of the foot sucking because it was easier for people to detect the unwanted kissing because it was closer to their ears and nose where they could hear and smell someone approaching them instead of getting into their tootsies. Next slide, please. A few stories about early unwanted toe sucks. Now, my two favorite toe suck tales are a crow's toothpick, where you know how crows are attracted to shiny objects. There was a man who would put coins on his feet so that the crow would suck them. And then the one day the crow picked up toothpicks from the tree that he was staying in and started jamming the toothpicks underneath the man's toenails. Because the crow just wanted the coins. The crow was not interested in sucking the toes, but the man was trying to get him to suck the toes. He did not like that. Crows are very smart creatures, so he tortured the man. I love that. If not 5, then 1. This is the story of a woman who liked having her toes sucked so much that her husband actually, she would say more, suck them more, suck so much, make my toe come off. And he would actually suck toes until he sucked them off of her foot. And once one of them healed, he started with the pinky toe, sucked that right off, let it heal, went to the next toe, and she said, "This isn't enough. Suck until the toe comes off." And he sucked the second toe off. So until she just had the one big toe, and he sucked and could not suck the big toe off. He sucked so hard that he had a brain aneurysm and died. So that's the story of if not 5, then 1, because she started off with 5 toes on that foot and ended up with 1. Next slide, please.
That gave me
Those were
shivers.
Those were not stories about. That was not a story about unwanted toe sucks. He didn't want to suck the toe as much as she wanted him to. So how the shoe entered my life. Bad ankles. I have bad ankles. So for a long time, I had to wear, those Converse All-Stars that go all the way up to your knees? That was how much ankle support I required. There were I put 2 yardsticks on each side, taped them up with packing tape, and then put the knee-high Converse All-Stars up over top of them. You would think that would be a hindrance for basketball, but it actually helped a lot because when people would try, to steal the ball and try to get their legs in between mine and try to take out my ankles, they actually ended up with a lot of broken ankles themselves. Poor circulation, being upside down so often. I was always upside down. In 1989, I saw the movie Batman. And I said, I want to be Batman. For some reason, what stuck out in my mind was that scene after he had sex with Kim Basinger, where he was hanging upside down. And I said, that's how I become Batman. I will sleep upside down. So I tried to sleep upside down every night. I sleep 14 hours a day. So being upside down for 14 hours, it put a lot of blood in my head, not much blood in my legs. Luckily, I had the yardsticks taped to my legs. That helped. They were like braces. Hospital trips, lots of broken bottles. At the trailer park, kept cutting my toes and arches. And as you know, Converse All-Stars, not a lot of arch support, very thin soles. So I would walk over the yards. My neighbor had a bad drinking problem, also a bad hoarding problem. So there was no room in his trailer for the bottles. So he would just throw the bottles out. After a while, there were so many bottles that when he threw a bottle, it wasn't hitting the ground anymore. It was hitting another bottle and shattering. So there was a lot of broken glass all over my neighborhood. The rats would just pick it up and carry it around. There was just so much broken glass all over everything. So I was in the hospital a lot. Lots of tetanus shots, lots of rabies shots. There were so many shots because of this man. We could get nothing to do with it because he was actually a cop, so the cops wouldn't arrest him. You know how that goes. But luckily, you know, I would hang myself upside down, and all of that bad blood with all the infections would go right to my brain. It explains a lot. Next slide, please. I didn't want to talk about the Croc, but they're so important now. Everybody has Crocs. You have to have a pair of Crocs. It's the law. Now, in 2001, the creation of the Croc, we had somebody said, "Man, wouldn't it be great if I made a slide out of styrofoam? People will love it. We're just going to put, I know that it doesn't breathe. You're going to have rank ass foot stank, but we're going to put big holes in it. So they're barely shoes at all." And everybody was like, this is a great idea. So in 2006, Crocs purchased Gibbets for $10 million. This is actually to plug the holes. They said the feet stank is getting out too much. We want to keep that stank in the Crocs. So we're going to invent some decorations to not only make your Crocs look better, but also keep that stank in. And then in 2021, Nicki Minaj wore Crocs on TikTok. All the TikTokers loved it. They said, "Give us those Crocs." People started wearing 9 and 10 pairs of Crocs at once. There was that challenge to see how many pairs of Crocs you could wear and still walk. So many broken ankles because nobody was taping their yardsticks to their legs. And just a lot of concussions and just bad. Nicki Minaj got sued for it, but she got away from it because she's a cop and they don't get arrested. Next slide, please. Man, these producers are... All right, a picture is worth 1,000 words. In case you didn't get the smell-o-visions that we sent to everybody, just think about your basement. After a big rainstorm and the padding underneath the carpet got wet, and you said, it's fine. We're not going to do anything about this. So you just let it dry naturally, but lots of mold and other fungus and bacteria just grew in underneath that carpet because it stayed wet for so long. Now, 10 years later, you want to sell your house. You pull up that carpet. This picture smells like the smell that hits you, the damp, moldy, bacteria-ridden funk of decades old, just horrifically rotted carpet padding on top of concrete. Because these people have just plugged up all of their stank holes. And so there's just sweat. just pooling in those Crocs. And if you could use your smell-o-vision, you would literally throw up right now because of how stinky these feet are. So I think that was 1,000 words. Next slide, please. Now, apparently, this presentation is all about Crocs and their net income. Somehow, despite Crocs being the ugliest footwear, nobody should wear them out in public or in private. You are going to get some sort of fungus in between your toes from the fact that you're wearing rubber on your feet and nothing else. And you're plugging up all the stink holes with your stupid looking gibbets. But despite all of that, Crocs are making just tons of money because people love them. And I blame Nicki Minaj. It also doesn't hurt that you have to buy several pairs of Crocs to get, the 200 or 300 views on your TikTok of that challenge where you wear, 10 pairs of Crocs, break your ankles, fall down, and crack your skull open. Again, Nicki, you have to apologize for this. I know that nothing legally is going to happen to you, but just apologize. Just say stop. You have to say stop doing this challenge. You didn't even say it was a challenge. People just took it and ran with it. So just please, Nicki, I'm talking directly to you. I know you're watching right now. Just say to people, stop doing this Croc challenge. I just want you to buy my new album, and we will. Nicki, we love your music, but you have to stop hurting people. Next slide, please. Now, in conclusion, fine. There's one set of good Crocs, and these are the tactical Crocs. You will be an alpha wolf man when you wear these army green colored Crocs with, you wouldn't be able to tell, but in that little strap that it has, it's everything you need to survive in the woods. You just open it up and it all comes out. The testicles are extra. They're just for looks. And damn, do they look good. I'm not going to lie. I wish all footwear had testicles. But really, Crocs are the only ones that allow you to put testicles on them. So take off your gibbets, put on the Croc balls, and get out there into the woods and live your life. Live your best life. Tame a wolf. Build your own house. And take off the wolf. When you castrate your wolf to make him less aggressive, use those testicles to put on the back of your Crocs. I think I covered everything. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Dylan.
Yeah. Not the direction I anticipated. And I think you made your opinion clear, but I was wondering, when Nicki Minaj TikToked the Croc, do you think she clocked the shock, or was it all gawking at her mockery, or do you think she walked the walk?
I think
I can reiterate that if you like.
He's gonna get kicked off the show for that shit.
Bushido Geek, I believe I saw your hand go up as well. Next slide, please.
Yeah. So I was curious if we could go back to the slide that had the SHOE acronym on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you missed it. What did the acronym stand for? If you could,
I
was hoping to write that down.
That's just an error. I just intended to write just shoe there. It doesn't mean anything. It just means shoe.
Right. Could you just make one up for me? Just for my own knowledge.
Shocking heaven of evangelicals.
Love it.
So this is how the shocking heaven of evangelicals entered your life.
Yes.
And it was mostly around bad. No, since we do have this slide up and I have a question. You talked a lot about your wanting to be Batman, your lack of sleeping with Kim Basinger, and your friend's whoring issue. But you never talked about how any of that brought the shoe into your life. And also, what did the whoring issue have to do with broken bottles?
Wasn't whoring, it was hoarding.
Oh, like Gears
he
of
had
War.
so much stuff inside of his house because he was hoarding that he had to throw his bottles outside.
And how did that bring shoes into your life?
Well, the only hospitals in my area were all Catholic hospitals. So when you go to a hospital, when you go to a Catholic hospital, they don't leave you alone. A priest is always in there. Even if it's just cuts on your feet, they want to be in there giving you your last rites, telling you that if you die, you're going to go to hell because you're not a Catholic. And so that's why it's shocking. It's a shocking hoard.
So the same. I remember once we did a presentation on other things, and you told the story, and this was about how you got your addiction to chapstick as well. Is that true? It's the same story, right?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Because when you're in the hospital, they're giving you a bunch of antibiotics. It really dries you out. So I had chapped lips, lots of cracking, a lot of bleeding, and they won't let you not talk because they're going to come in, they're going to try to convert you, and you have to say no. Yeah. And the O sound is very hard on chapped lips. It really cracks them up. So
it's easy to say that like all the priests coming in made it so you couldn't talk.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And I was also making the O mouth.
We do have a question from the audience.
Yes.
Let's see. Blue Shoe Nick would like to know, Mr. Fish, would you argue that non-consensual toe sucking leads to the formation of street gangs known as the Foot? And is it possible for the trauma to heal? Oh my God, it's worse than Dylan this time.
It takes something.
At least it wasn't alliteration.
I know. Yeah.
I would argue. Yes, I would argue against non-consensual toe sucking leading to the formation of street gangs. There are many reasons for street gangs. A lot of economic issues, a lot of racial issues, and a lot of just the area in which you live. It's all very serious things, and I don't want to make any jokes about the formations of street gangs because I understand why it happens, and non-consensual foot sucking is not one of them. All non-consensual foot sucking leads to really is weird internet searches in your late 30s into your mid 40s.
Yeah, and
late
possibly
30s.
marijuana use.
Lots of marijuana use, yes.
Okay, let's see. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Albert Fish? Perfect. That's exactly what he deserves. And let's see. I think up last we have Dylan. He's got a new headband on. That's cute. Let's see if we can get the producers please to bring up Dylan's slide.
All right. Hello, everybody. Of course, my name is Dylan. Today I'm going to be talking to you about footwear and creating a footprint on your own fingerprint. Now, fingerprints, of course, used to identify us, used to unlock our phones nowadays, used to track us down from scenes of various activities. And footprints also used to track us down, generally just wherever the ground is soft and malleable. And we're going to figure out how to create the footprint on your own fingerprint today. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, here. Now, of course, we're talking about the history of footwear, so many of us are covering the timelines of footwear. Let's talk about the origin of the shoe. It originated in the Catalonian region of Spain as early as the 13th century, commonly worn by peasants and farming communities. The new styles did develop during the Song dynasty in China, one of them being the debut of the foot strap. Now, it's similar to a sandal. Keeps your foot in place. Now, let's just abstract go through history. The world has feet. Feet is money. You got to go somewhere. You're generally going somewhere to spend money. Got the creation of Big Shoe. They're hidden in the shadows, but they're trying to keep it so you have to wear shoes all the time. Big Shoe started harvesting the peasants. Peasants, of course, go missing without people noticing all the time because they're poor and underfunded. And finally, I'm going to come back to this later on. Neptune is very far away from Earth. Now, that may seem like a non sequitur, and we're going to find out why I put that in there as we proceed to the next slide, please. Now, we can, of course, talk about human footprints. We're going to talk about animal footwear because, of course, you see here the animal footprint. Usually, animals don't exactly wear footwear. Animals are a freer sort. They have a freer spirit, and as such, they don't feel the need to confine their forms away from God's judgmental gaze beneath clothing. And let's look at dogs. They're cute, pointless. Dogs eat shoes. Sometimes when it's very hot or very cold outside, you put little beanies on your dog's feet so they don't hurt the little pawsies. That's more a functional thing than style, but you never know. I do live in a place where people dress their dogs up casually. So see a dog in a stroller, it might be wearing a necktie. Fish, they needed feet at first. After that, the results are inconclusive. It's difficult to find a shoe that properly fits on a fin. Because at what point does a shoe become a glove or a sheath? I'll leave that to you. Horses, it's going well. They're easy to make. Horses have lame style, though. The unfortunate truth about horses is that pretty uniform, so there's not a lot of room for innovation as far as style goes. Raccoons, they're real cute. Little thieves, little bandits with their masks. They can tie good knots, and they stopped minor theft, but shoes, it restrains their paws, so sometimes when they're doing raccoon hands, they have shoes on those. Makes it difficult. But generally, they spend a lot of time in dumpsters. Dumpsters have floors. They don't need to worry about walking around in the dirt. These are just some examples of how Big Shoe has its toes in a lot of different baths and how it's trying to move from human subjects into animal subjects. Let's go to the next slide, please. The Big Shoe has a history. And I know that we were talking about footwear and footprints and fingerprints, but really it's impossible to make such... It's very difficult for an individual to make a footprint inside the largest footprint that Big Shoe has ever created. It's like when in 1999's Godzilla starring Matthew Broderick, when it's like, where's the footprint? And the guy turns around and goes, you're standing in it. And then the camera lifts up and you see that he's been standing inside Godzilla's footprint the entire time. We have another timeline here. Just as feet march onward in groups, time marches onward into the future. So we're looking at 1515 BC. The Egyptians began making shoes from woven reeds. In the 12th century, pointy-tipped pleons, shoes in the Polish fashion, were all the rage. You could stab your foe with them, and as the Polish know, they have many foes. In January 24, 1899, the Irish-American Humphrey O'Sullivan patents the first rubber heel for shoes, classic Irish rubber. We all know where that comes from. And then in November 24, 1989, the pump actually launched just shy of the dawn of the new decade and introduced the public to a never-before-seen shoe with that inflated to provide a custom fit. English is not my first language, and even if it was, that mistake would still be there. Yet again, another history of how Big Shoe has enveloped many different styles, many different formats in order to really capitalize on the trends and choke out the little guys, sometimes with their feet, which I'm sure people like Albert Fish may be into. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, I'm going to compare my shoe versus my smooches. Why not? I can tell you one difference. Big Shoe is not going to kiss you on the mouth. This guy, make me dinner first and we'll talk afterwards. Let's talk about Airwalks. Some smooches, not great. Airwalks, good shoes. Smooches ain't all right. New Balances. Let's go quality over quantity. You get a New Balance. You know how you sometimes when you kiss someone and they lose they get, it's like the air lightheaded. It's so great. Yeah. Hey, here we are giving you a New Balance with these things. Shoes, they're fine. British Knights, old smooches, fresh baked goods. I think British Knight is a brand of bread. King Arthur flour is probably what I'm going for on this comparison. King Arthur, famous for kissing Morgan. Was Morgan the woman, the femme fatale in all the King Arthur stories?
Morgana.
That Thank you. Yeah. Old smooches though. You know, what are you gonna do? Nike. No smooches, lots of prospects. Nike, the goddess of victory in ancient Greece. She's not gonna kiss you, but she's gonna win. Be sure of that. Converse, real solid hard kisses, a lot of competition. Pretty popular. It'll get you where you need to go. It's reliable and it's fairly fashionable. At least all the kids are wearing Converse now. And it depends on what you're trying to kiss. But hey, you know, Converse will generally work. And Reebok, record-breaking smooches. They'll get you up in the air. But especially with the pumps, you reach down and you kiss. I'm going to leave it at that because there might be children in the audience. Let's go to the next slide, please. The shoes are also for hiding smells. My feet smell like feet. Let's be real here. I'm not going to sugarcoat this because I'm not sugarcoating my feet. I'm putting them in shoes so you don't have to smell them mostly. If you've installed the smell-o-vision, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, good for you. Let's talk about what smells our shoes are hiding. 35% of our shoes are hiding the smell of feces. Human, dog, some geese feces. If you walk around barefoot outside, odds are you've stepped in at least one of 3 of these. If you're unlucky and you live somewhere similar to where I live, you might have stepped in all 3 just on the sidewalk, randomly downtown on a Saturday afternoon. The geese, though, are the real problem. The feces, not so much. You're looking out for the geese. Shoes hides the smell. Now, 20% of our shoes are hiding old food. Spilt pot pie. We talked about English nights. We talked about the Irish rubber. They love their pot pies out there. A lot of stuff comes back in the shoes. They're a very saucy culture, etc. Splash sauces get in the shoe. Less so than feces because usually the shoes are under the table. And the spilled stuff goes on the table. But if it's one of those old-fashioned like wooden slat tables, there's plenty of cracks for all that food to fall through. Now, 25% of our shoes are hiding perfume smells. Now, there's chaos at Macy's. It's unbelievable out there. They actually tore down the Macy's near where I live, and they're putting in office space, which is really fascinating because returning to the office and office space seems like it's going the way of the dodo, or at least I hoped it was, until I saw they were building more fucking offices. Now, I live in a tech town, so despite the fact that they're on the cutting edge of technology, it seems like in the workplace flow, they're still stuck in the fucking 90s. So at some point after those buildings have been empty for 10 years, they'll tear those down and probably put in another, whatever a retro Macy's is. It sells overpriced clothing that's probably made in like Taiwan or something. Once at JCPenney, someone spilled some perfume on me. That's why this is on here. I've only ever owned 2 pairs of shoes and one of them got doused in perfume. So that's the 25% right there. 15% of shoes smell like trash. It's just unavoidable. You buy them, they smell like garbage. Cigarette butts, dirty masks, syringes. I don't need to elaborate very much on that. We've all been there. We've all had the syringe poke up between our toes, absolutely just through our shoe. Wasn't because I was trying to, hide any marks or anything like that. Just popped in the shoe. It was in a dirty alleyway. Don't ask me why. Anyway, let's go to the next slide, please. Now, I say now a lot when I do this presentation. I apologize for the repetition, but I'm just walking in a pattern right now. Now my Crocs, one of the 2 pairs of shoes that I own, not the ones that got covered in perfume, the ones that stepped in human shit on the sidewalk on Saturday. They're good for a few things. Big Shoe would tell you they're good for a lot of stuff. They are, but Big Shoe is not inventing those reasons. The top 5 I could come up with on the spot: bug squishing. Sometimes they deserve it. Sig butt putter outer. It's fire season. Put them out. Nazi curb stomping. Now that's curb stomping Nazis, not doing the Edward Norton thing. Go punch a Nazi. I don't know. I fully endorse that. I'm not endorsing violence necessarily, unless that violence is aimed at someone who's, we're all, if you're not cool with punching Nazis, get out of my face. I don't know what to tell you. Lego hating. I don't hate Legos. I hate stepping on Legos. I'm pretty sure that's what I meant when I said this. Don't step on Legos. Hate it. But Crocs are pretty flimsy, so you can still kind of feel it. So my Crocs hate Legos. And mud skipping. The holes in the Crocs let the mud in. It squelches between my toes. Great feeling. I love walking when it's rainy outside, especially in my Crocs. I don't like the feeling of the wet rubber on my toes. That's not so great. But fortunately, I don't know. There's no fortunately. I don't know why I said that. I don't know. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, in conclusion, much like this picture, I've tried to identify what this presentation is about. And similar to presumably your inability and my inability to identify any concrete object in this photo, I think we're all just kind of piling stuff on right now. I talked about big shoe. Don't buy big shoe. Make your own if you can. You can find patterns online. If you have a 3D printer, you can actually 3D print Crocs. You can find that pattern online. 3D print your own so you don't give to Big Croc. Shoes are great. That's all I got, I think. I lost the thread of the conversation somewhere in here. I know that when I talk about big shoe, I tend to go on my rants. But really, it's mostly about finding what kind of shoe works for what you need it, whether it's skipping in mud, whether it's curb stomping a Nazi, whether it's stepping in human shit on the sidewalk. There is a footprint to your fingerprint, and there's a fingerprint on all of us. At least one, probably. And I will take any and all questions.
Beautiful. Before we go to our panel, we have one from the audience. Let's see. Blue Shoe Nick would like to know, Dylan, would Kevin Bacon be better at tightening his foot with better smooches? Also, why aren't toenail cuticles called tuticles?
Two good questions. I think that Kevin Bacon's foot looseness would be, it's worth trying. To my knowledge, he never actually attempted kissing the feet, but they might not have just shown it.
Yeah.
That might have been the corner that he put bait. Is that Footloose or is that Dirty Dancing?
No, it's definitely Footloose.
Okay. Dirty Loose. Dirty Feet.
No, it's definitely Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Foot Dancing.
Definitely not.
Anyway.
Dirty Foot Dancing is a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Hell yeah, brother. Anyway, so Kevin Bacon, he might as well try it. It might adjust it. I know it makes my toes curl, and that's tight. Sure. Also, why aren't toenail cuticles called tuticles? I mean, there's no reason you can't start. At this point, I suspect it's just like linguistic inertia that we've been calling them cuticles for so long. But if you get this started and we get enough of an internet following, this could be the start of something beautiful about tuticles.
I agree. But yeah, are there any questions from the panelists?
Let's hear from Mark H. Bushido Geek.
Yeah, I think you forgot to circle back to the Neptune argument on why it's so far away from Earth. I was just curious if you could give me the answer to that.
That's
Good
right.
question.
Neptune classically is the god of the sea, also known as Poseidon, and sometimes your feet smell like low tide. It's not.
Dang,
it's
sick
not.
burn.
No, not
sick burn.
General, generic plural you.
Right.
Generic second person. I have never smelled your feet, so I can't speak for that.
It's the first time for everything.
There is. We'll talk. All right. Any further questions? Let's hear from Albert Fish.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. I did understand the Neptune reference. It was very subtle, but I'm glad that we got it cleared up. But I definitely, I think you went through everything. I just wanted to say, there was a sticking point. You said that horses have lame style, but I think that getting metal shoes nailed into your feet is pretty awesome. I don't see anything lame about that.
It is pretty metal, but sometimes it causes the horse to go lame and the farmers have to shoot him dead.
That's also pretty metal.
No.
And if you say so, I think we'll have to agree to disagree on euthanasia.
Fish,
and
you are a son of a bee right
I've
now.
also, you talked about not liking to step on Legos. And as you know, I've been known to flog myself with a board full of rusty needles and put roses into my urethra. But even walking on Legos is a little bit too much for me.
You're a freak, Fish. That's all I got to say.
Hell yeah.
Wisem and one. I think you have one more question for me.
Yeah, honestly, beautiful presentation. Thank you very much. Probably one of your most acceptable ones in weeks. So good job. As we look at this this graph right here on hiding smells, I can only help to see that there are 3 5s, and I don't know much about math, but that means that it probably doesn't equal up to 100. I think we're missing 5%, and obviously that's too small to put on this chart. Will you tell us what the other 5% of the smell that your shoe's hiding?
It's my feet. It's just the natural foot odor of my foot sweat.
Oh, so these smells are what is the inside of your shoe.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Okay.
Okay,
so
you're
it-
asking. Okay, so this adds up to 95% of
Yeah.
smells as opposed to 100%. Yeah.
of foot smell. Yeah.
Of the sample sizes, none of the other majorities were large enough to hold a spot on the chart. Some options included raw meat, fresh cut grass,
Mm.
and J.K. Rowling's Twitter feed.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it was sick.
Solid and topical. We do have one more from the audience. Let's see. Blue Shoe
Yes.
Nick would like to know the euthanasia agrees with horseshoes. I fucking hate him today. I should read these before I put them up. Okay, listen. Great job, Dylan. Thank you very much. I don't think we have any more questions concerning your beautiful, beautiful presentation on the history of human feet. Now, as always, every single week, presentations are given. Each member of the panel are now going to vote on who gave the best presentation in their eyes. Once again, they get a $50,000 grant, which comes to Some Nobodies University. I am a substitute teacher there. Dylan is the dean. You also get the Nostalgia Prize of the Week, which is apparently a German Fritz the Cat printed poster, which is cool. Now, with a show of hands, please tell me who you think had the best presentation. I'm number 1, Bushido Geeks number 2, Albert Fish number 3, and Dylan with an I is number 4. So please, 3, 2, 1, who's your best? Oh, we have a tie. So
I'll give you the 50,000 if I can have the Fritz the Cat poster.
Sold.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, thank you very much, everyone, for paying attention to us. We are a bunch of people that like to say words into the air and hope that somebody's ears will catch them. And that's obviously going to conclude our conference for the week. Now, since technically Mark H. Bushido Geek won, I need you to tell us what our next week's conference is going to be on.
You know what? That's a good question, and I'm gonna do it on the let's do it on the history of the D20.
History of D20. That is Disney's conference hall where they release what is coming out new in theaters and on Disney Plus. And they've been doing it for 20 years. So tune in next week to hear how we talk about some stupid nerds dressing up as random things, rolling some fat ass dice. Listen, my name has been Zack Wiseman. My payment for doing this is to make someone give us a new outgoing slogan. So, Albert Fish, what's our outgoing slogan?
PowerPoint me to the bathroom because I'm about to poop in my pants.
Okay, so until the slogan gets said, I need to hear from Mark H. Pretty please. Where can people hear your voice? Where can people find you? What do you got going on, my friend?
Yeah, you can, if you just search pretty much Dad's Anime Stache or The Phantom Effect, those are the two podcasts I host, every major podcasting platform. And it's not quite live yet, but I'm launching a digital editing business called Digital Shogun, which will be live in the next couple weeks for video and audio editing. So you can catch me on Digital Shogun as well.
Awesome. Please go check that out. It's awesome stuff. I've been on there once before, so you can probably find me if you need that. If not, if you want to hear more cool people, please check that out. Also, your co-host, Sam, super, super great. So if you check that show out, awesome, very entertaining. So check it out. Albert Fish, where can people find your beautiful voice and melodic eye gaze?
What you want to do is you want to go to your local podcast downloading application and search for Jack Billings Presents Haunted Apartment Complex. It's on the Podmoth Network. There you will hear one of the wildest, wackiest, haunted apartment-based comedy fiction podcasts that you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Also, you can look for Jack Billings Presents Me and My Neighbor Michael while you're there. That is a comedy podcast about neighborhood goings-on. You have about 200 hours between the two of them to listen to just some wacky shit. Also, PowerPoint Showdown. Also, No Time to Binge. Also, we have a thing coming out with the origin story of how me and Zack and Matt DeCheria, who is my writing partner, and Dylan and B and everyone you've heard on any of our podcasts got together. That will be out soon.
Yeah, go check out most of that. All if you want, but definitely most of it. Dylan, where can we hear your voice, read your words, or even sometimes find me?
Yeah, so you can find Zack and I when you look at Some Nobodies. Twitching upstream and talking upstream, we've got a lot of that going on previously. We'll have some more going on soon. We've got, of course, No Time to Binge. Michael talked about that, and PowerPoint Showdown, our upcoming project. If you want to go look through our back catalog, we've got Silicon Angels, comedy podcast, a podcast show, a comedy podcast, CYOP Appeal, which is a create your own adventure style. I can't say that legally, but I can compare it to that style podcast with a branching storyline. Go check that out. And we'll have a second season of that coming out as soon as I finish these last few episodes. August has been one hell of a month.
Hell yeah, August.
And then, of course, we got
sucks.
that
It's almost
upcoming
gone.
stuff. So, yeah, check this out. And you can follow me at Vorpal_words on everything.
Yeah. And one last question, Dylan. Did you happen to remember what Albert Fish's his slogan was?
PowerPoint his poop
We
to the
don't know.
bathroom.
Maybe if you went 3 more feet, you could get all the way through the Earth and get back out into space, which doesn't exist because it's just water outside of the dome that surrounds the Earth. So if you would, thank you for watching PowerPoint Showdown. Today's winner will receive a $50,000 grant courtesy of Some Nobodies Patreon. Congratulations on your win! Join us next week for another showdown. Thanks for providing that big prize, guys.